Alright, welcome guys. We're going to be doing a message board demo. This should be pretty fun. How many have done this assignment yet? 4 of you? Okay, good deal. So let's just kind of review what the requirements are that we're doing here. You will create a simple single-page message board that allows users to create messages and comment on existing messages. So it's saying the estimated time here is 2 to 4 hours. We will not be in here for 2 to 4 hours, just so you know. Yeah, I don't want to take your whole afternoon doing this. So this is kind of an important little bit of information. Remember to put some time into planning out your database to play to Mongoose strengths. Include validations so empty fields are not permitted. Follow the wireframe below. Alright, so that's not too bad. What do they mean when they say, let's plan out the database to play to Mongoose strengths? Like, how do you think we're going to do that? So Mongoose strengths obviously do not include joining tables because we simply can't do that, right? How do we think we're going to kind of structure this situation? Because we've got some messages and then some comments that go with each message, right?
Right. Well, we want to store the comments within each message.
Yeah, exactly. So we can nest the comments inside the messages, or each message. All right, good. So I propose that we start the project. We'll kind of like flesh out a basic modularized structure. And then once we do that, we'll probably delve right into the model because that's sort of like the core of this whole thing, or the models. And then from there, we'll just kind of build out the rest of it. So let's get into the coding part. And let's start from scratch. So what do we need to do when we're creating a new project? All this standard stuff. Okay. And then we also want to install our dependencies. And what are those going to be?
Express, EJS, Mongoose, Express session.
Yeah, we're not going to do session. Sorry. So we'll have validations, but we're not going to do like error handling per se, where we see anything on the screen like a flash message. So anyway, let's install these guys here, and then let's just start creating our server. Okay. So we want to bring in Express, right? Acquire that guy. Oops. Okay, and then let's just say we'll create our app, which is standard. We're just going to invoke Express, and then we'll say app.get / we'll just kind of do this to make sure everything's working. Res.send hello. And then down here, we'll listen, of course, 3000. Good deal. Let's go ahead and run it and make sure that everything's good. So nodemon server.js 3000. Hello. Good. All right. So let's start creating our folder structure. Which folders do we need out here if we're going to do this modularized? What's that? Views. So our outer folders, we're going to have a server folder, right? And then another outer folder would be what? Client. Okay, so inside my client folder, I'll put my views there. And then I'll also just create like a static folder that we can reference. Maybe or maybe not. Maybe we'll use it for some styling or something. So that'll be cool. And then inside the server, let's create those subfolders that we were doing earlier today. So we had one subfolder that was for our config, right, our configurations. We had another one that was for our controllers. And then another one for our models. All right. So let's just create a basic view here. I'm just going to create an index.ejs. And then, ooh, I created a folder accident. Can I undo that? No. Alright. There's seemingly no undo if you create something here on the side. So let me just delete this. to the trash. Okay, and in this views, we just want to create an index.ejs. Some boilerplate in there, and then we'll just say h1. Yeah.
Every time I create an EJS folder, it doesn't come up like, it doesn't give you that option to autofill stuff and like, you know, tab to like kind of autocomplete some of the code. It's just like white text, and I have to manually type everything. So I have to like create it as.
I think it's because I have an EJS extension
It
installed.
seems like everybody has it except me.
So
And then I tried to download it, and I just didn't do anything.
yeah, let me see what it is. What I'm using here. EJS. I've got EJS language support. Is that the one you're using?
I think so. I think I just, yeah, the first one that I saw it installed.
Okay, and then let me check one other thing because I think I had to make one other small change here. So if you go to your preferences, settings, and then I'm just going to look at the JSON view of that. So files associations. Okay, so I had to do this emmet.include languages thing where I mapped EJS to HTML. So it helped me with the autocomplete stuff.
And you did that recently, right? Because I feel like one of your other lectures, you had to create the HTML file and then when you're done.
Yes, it was causing me grief, so I finally
Yeah.
looked into it. I'm like, well, why am I having to do that? Okay,
But I
so
feel like even if without doing that, you can still really
Every program is the same.
so some of you have not had any issues with that, and you're just getting the autocompletes out of the box. Huh. Well, I don't know. Maybe. And you didn't even. You must have installed the extension, though, no?
I only have the HTML extension. I don't have any other extension.
He's got maybe.
Hmm.
Speaker's got a Mac. Here's what
Okay.
If you have it auto update, it's always up to date. Otherwise, it's
I'll like probably do like update later or something.
Another thing you can do is like uninstall all the snippets and then reinstall it.
You uninstalled your
I
snippets,
had
you
the
said?
same issue what Rob was having.
Okay.
And then I uninstall every single like the Rainbow, you know those what do you call that? All the extensions.
Okay.
And then I only installed the one that I needed, and then I didn't have any issue after that.
All right. Well, I don't know all. I definitely don't know all the answers to why we're getting some sort of inconsistent behavior. But I do think that if you guys are having trouble after you've installed the EJS extension, if you do this where you map EJS files to HTML, it should fix the issue as far as the HTML auto-completions. Hopefully. So try that. Cool. So let's keep going here. Close out of this. Okay, so inside our index.ejs, we're not really doing anything. And I'm just actually going to set where our views are being found, right? So let's go over here. And then we'll say app.use. Whoops, actually app.set. We need to set the view engine, right? Set it to EJS, and then we want to tell it where to find those views. Okay, so we'll say app.set views, and then we want the current dir name plus that's going to be inside the clients folder and then inside views. Okay, and then one other change I'm going to make. So rather than just running nodemon as is, I'm going to add a little flag to it so that we can actually have EJS files updating as well. So that little argument there, the -e should tell it, okay, every time I update an EJS file, let me update this too. So basically restart the server. Okay, so let's see if we can actually get this back. If we just res.render index, I should be seeing something, right? Whoops. Render index. Let's go over here. Okay, so we're seeing our message board, so that's good. Next thing we want to do, as we talked about, is get into setting up our models. And what's the I'm going to ask you guys kind of how you want to do this because we have a couple different options. We could sort of create one schema which has it'll still have a comments array, but it'll still only be one schema, or we can create two schemas and then nest the comments schema inside the messages.
First way.
Any preferences? First way? Okay, so we'll have one schema. Yes, Tom?
I'm going to be bad and ask, what's closer to what we will see on the exam?
I don't know. Not sure I can tell you that.
What's
I
more
tried.
common in the real world?
Probably creating another schema, and the reason why maybe that would be a good thing is because we can also add timestamps to that as well,
So if we
and it will be managed for us, like the created out and updated out. So that's kind of nice.
So in nested we cannot have like nested timestamps.
If we don't have a separate schema, I'm not sure that we can, unless we kind of finagle with it manually, which I think could be a bit of a headache. So yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure there's a way to do it. It's just it would require more intervention on our part, right? So let's have a show of hands. Who wants just one schema? Who wants two schemas? So one schema. Hands on that. One person. Sorry, Alan. Well, yeah. Who wants two schemas? All right. Clearly, you guys win. You win. All right, so let's do it that way. So let's just create our message model. Okay, what do we need to do to bring in when we're making a model? Acquire Mongoose, good. Mongoose. All right, good. And then we're going to create our message schema, right? So message schema equals new mongoose dot schema. All right. And really, I believe the only two things that we need, we're just going to need a name and a text field, right? Same thing for the comments. So let's do that. So we'll say name is going to be type of string, and then we'll say required true, and then we'll just say text is going to be the same exact thing. So type string required true. Okay, and then we want our timestamps as usual. Stamps, whoops, true. Cool. However, before we do the message schema, I want to actually create the comment schema, and the reason I want to do that above is so that I have access to it here, and we can nest them inside our comments array. So I'm just going to grab all of this because it's essentially going to be the same for our comments. So up here, let's say a comment schema equals this. Same exact thing, right? And then right after I make that, let's just register it. So how do we do that? Dead silence. So we say mongoose.model, and then we pass in the name of the model, and then the actual schema. So one thing that's been coming up a little bit, I've been hearing some questions here and there. How does Mongoose know what collection to put these things in? Does anybody know? I know a couple of you know because we've talked about it, but no, that's actually the database name. That's the name of the database. So how does it know which collection within the database?
Oh, it's that first argument there.
Mm-hmm. And then what does it do with it? So if this is comment like this, capital C there. Yeah, so it turns it into lowercase and then it adds an S. So it basically pluralizes it. And then you guys also have the option, if you didn't want it to use that by default, you could add a third argument, as you can see here. So if I do comma here, notice how it gives me the option I could specify a different collection if I wanted. So if I didn't want it to be comments in this case, then I could change it.
Cactus.
Yeah, it'd be like my cactuses collection.
Cacti.
Seems
Will it throw an
cacti.
error if you write their comments itself as a first argument?
Would it error if I did what?
Comments.
If I put comments in here?
Yeah.
No, I'd probably just add an S to that, so you'd end up with comment double S. Yeah, I don't think I'd have any issue with that.
If we were doing something that required, like, I don't know, if it was just a really huge model, and we did want to keep our models in separate files, but one model ended up, like with the comment schema, if you wanted to put that in a separate file, you just require
Then
that.
we would require it in here.
Okay.
Yeah. There could potentially be some tricky issues with like circular dependencies. So watch out for that. It might if you get into a circular dependency kind of situation, it might tell you this thing that you're requiring or importing is not available. And I've had that happen before. It can be kind of tricky to debug. So at least, you know, and I know this isn't great because it's sort of all in one file, but we know that we're not going to run into a circular dependency problem here. Okay, so we've created this schema. We also created the model for comment, right? And now down here, what I want to do is just create a comments array where I nest the comment schema. Okay, and then I also want to make sure to register my my message model, right? So we'll say mongoose.model message, and then let's pass in the message schema. Okay, are we requiring this yet? No, right? Not yet. So if we go into the config, let's just set up our basic Mongoose stuff so that we can actually require this. So we'll say Mongoose, and then we know we're also going to have a routes file as well, right? So inside Mongoose, I need to actually require Mongoose, of course, because we want to connect to it. Alright, and then we want to say mongoose.connect, and then we have to pass in this connection string. So MongoDB localhost, and then we're going to call this one message board. And then we're probably going to have to pass in some arguments here. Use new URL parser, right? And then, what's that topology one? Oh, here it is. Use unified topology. Has anyone figured out what that means? No. Okay, no problem. All right, so in here, what we want to do is basically require all our models, and let's do what we were doing earlier, right? We'll pretend like maybe later on we'll add more models. So just in case, we want to always be requiring everything that we got in there. So let's bring in the file system module. And then down here we'll say fs.readDirsync. Let's be careful about that. And then up here I'll just create a models path. And what's that going to be? That's going to be the current directory that we're in. And then I need to go up one level and then into models, right?
Where's the FS module?
It's native to Node.
Okay.
So yeah, it's something that is already part of Node. It's not something that you need to install with your dependencies. Okay, so we got our models path here, and that's where we want to read from. So we're going to go up one level and then into the models directory. So we'll just drop that in here. And then we're going to iterate through that because that's going to pass us an array of files. So for each file, I want to do this. If the file has an index of .js, then let's require models path plus a / and then plus the name of the file. Alright, so we're good to go. We're still not even requiring this yet, so we would need to go back to our server.js and require it, right? Let's do that and make sure that nothing's breaking. So, oops, require, and then we'll go into our server config Mongoose. Alright, nothing breaking yet, so we're good. Alright, however, we haven't fully modularized because here we're just doing something in our app.get, right? So we want to start modularizing. Where should we start doing that? You guys want to do it in the routes, or do you want to start with the controller? I'm up for whatever. No votes. All right. Let's do it in the routes. Okay. So inside of our routes, we are going to, we're going to have to bring in a controller, right? And I'll just create this and then we'll comment it out because we don't have it yet. So we'll say messages controller, and that's going to be up one level inside controllers messages. Okay, and then if we really want to get kind of modular, let's have the comments have their own controller as well. Require controllers comments. Okay, but I don't have those things yet, so let's just kind of comment them out for now. And then, do you guys remember what routes.js is going to export? What is it going to give back when we actually require this from someone? A function. Yeah, exactly. And the function is going to take in what? An app, and then we're going to apply the routes to that app, one by one. Cool. So let's say module.exports equals a function, takes in an application, and then let's just talk about what routes we need. So really, there's going to be the index route, which we already have. Then we need to be able to add a message, so that's another route. What else do we need to do? Add a comment. Anything else? It's just those, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no routes for deleting or anything? There's no deleting on this project?
Nope. I don't recall seeing anything in here about deleting.
Yeah, it's just add.
Once they're there, they're there. That's it. Alright, so let's just create these basic routes. So I'm going to do down here app.get, so / we'll just say this is controllers dot in, oh shoot, messages controller, right? Index. Okay, and then we're also going to have app.post. If we post to messages, I want to do messages controller dot create. Okay. And then finally, we're going to have another route where we post to, and I'll use these little. Have you guys used the backticks a little bit? Have you seen this yet? So if I use a backticks, I can actually use string interpolation to put variables inside my string, which is kind of nice. So here, if I want to post to messages and then a specific message ID, I can do $, and then just drop that in. So I can say, oh shoot, what am I doing? I just want to use a wildcard here. I don't know why I was trying to put that inside backticks. So it's going to be the ID of the message, and then we'll go / we're going to post to comments. We'll use the, maybe we'll use the backticks somewhere else, not here. All right, cool. So we want to use the comments controller, right? And we'll do the create method on that guy. Okay, so obviously this isn't going to work yet because we don't yet have these controllers built. So let's go ahead and build these, and then we can uncomment that, and then bring the whole thing into the server. Right, so in my controllers, I don't have anything yet, so let's just create messages, and then we'll also create comments. Inside messages, what am I going to need? So I need a couple methods. We're going to have like an index route, which pulls all of our messages, and then we're also going to have a create route, or a create method, which would create a new message for me, right? So before I even get to exporting my methods, what do I need to bring in here? Louder. Yes, yeah, I need access to my model. So in order to get that, I'm going to require Mongoose. Okay, and then so we'll say message is mongoose.model message. Okay. Now I can actually create my object to export. We'll say module.exports equals this object. And then the object is just going to have a couple things. It'll have the index again, and then we'll also have the create. So the index, we don't really need the request. We just need the response here. So what am I going to do inside my index route? I'm not rendering yet. I got to do something first, right? Yeah, I need to find all my messages. Yeah, exactly. So let's go get them. So let's say message.find, and then we'll just make it completely empty because we want to get all the messages. And then we'll say .then. So when we get our messages, I'm going to res.render index, and then we'll pass this object that has our messages, and I'm just going to drop them in here. Okay, so again, I'm just using some shorthand here because I know the messages key is exactly the same as this variable that I have a reference to. Okay, so that should be working well. Let's go inside our actual template and make it so that we can see them if we have any. So up here in our template, let's just loop through them. So how are we looping in here?
For
Yeah, we'll say something like for.
message and message.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's just do message of messages. Open up some curly braces here, end this guy here. Start another one. Okay, and then we got to close this one out as well. Cool. And then I guess we just need to put the name in the message, right? Okay. Okay. So we'll do a p tag here, and then we'll just say name is going to be what? So I'm going to use the equal sign, which says we're actually outputting this to the page. So there's .name, right? I think that's how I had it. Okay, and then I'll just duplicate this down here, and this time it was .text, I believe, right? Okay, so we should still be seeing nothing on the screen because obviously we haven't created any messages. But let's make sure that we don't. Oh, you know.
It's getting an empty object, right? So like you're trying to iterate the object, is that the same thing?
Messages is not defined. Oh, you know what? Okay. Yeah, let's back up a second.
I feel like a if statement when I'm trying to.
Well, so here's what's going on. we're still rendering from here. We need pass messages, right? So we kind of have to back up. I haven't yet plugged in our routing to this yet. Okay. So let's get rid of that right there, and then inside of our messages controller, this part was all good, but then in the routes, I need to uncomment this, and then I'll just comment these guys right here. Okay, so inside server, we still need to require that that file. So after we bring in Mongoose, let's bring in our routes. Oops. Routes. And then we want to invoke that against the application. Let's try that again. Okay, so now we're okay. Obviously, we're not seeing any messages because we don't even have a form that can handle them yet. So let's create a form where we can actually create some messages. And does that go at the top of the page? I think it does, right? Okay, so at the very top, we've got this form. Cool. That should be easy. Index.ejs. Just create a little form. Action is going to be what? So messages, I think, is how I had it. And then our method, post. All right, and then let's just create some inputs. So we'll do name, name, cool. And this guy will be message. Sorry. Okay, and the type on this, I guess we can do text area, right? Since that's a big one. So let's do a button, submit. Okay, good deal. Let's just check this out. Looks sweet, right? All right, are we going to be able to receive this form data yet? Still have to do something so that we can parse form data, right? So let's make that happen inside our server. We want to do app.use, and then it's going to be express.url encoded, extended true. Okay, cool. So let's just see if we can actually receive a post request here. So if we go back to our messages, let's create our create method. And that's going to take in a request and a response, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to actually try to create a message in here. So we'll say message.create, and then I'm just going to pass in the request, the body of the request. Okay, and then we'll catch any errors, or we'll basically just log out any errors. And then finally, so at the very end, after all my dot thens and my dot catches, I'm just going to redirect back to the index. So let's go res.redirect home. Okay, and then inside routes, I think I need to uncomment something here. So just uncomment that guy there. Cool. Let's try to create a message. Why is that not a text area? Okay, fine. Fair enough. All right, let's come in here. Text area. Jeez. Text. All right. Let's get rid of this ID here. Okay, cool. So back here, that looks a little better. So we'll say Akshay. Is it Nandi? Nandi? Okay. What up, fool? Alright, I'm just playing around. Alright, cool. So we got our message right away. We didn't have any problems. What would happen if I removed one of these inputs? So if I took out name, for instance. What do you guys think is going to happen here if I just remove this here? Delete element.
Was it required?
Yeah, I made it required.
Then it's gonna fail.
Yeah, so some message. Okay. Now we didn't have any sweet error handling back here, so all I'm doing is I'm just logging out the error, and our finally still sends us back to the main page. Okay, so no matter what, we're just going to come back to the index. All right, good. So now the other thing that we need to add is we need to have the ability to add a comment to an individual message. So we have to create a form that's actually nested inside each one of these messages. And that's underneath the message itself, I presume, right? Okay, yeah, so underneath the message we've got this little form. And again, I'm just going to grab my code up here because it's basically the same thing, right? We'll just make some small changes to it. So I've got my form, and what's the action on this one going to be? So we're going to go messages, and then we had / the ID of the messages, right? And then we're going to go / comments. So we'll come back to the ID in a second. I want to actually put in the ID of this specific message. So let's output it using this little guy here. So we'll say message and then ._ID. I know there's been a little bit of confusion with some of you guys about when we use the ._ID and when we don't. Is it starting to get cleared up a little bit, or is there still some hesitation on that? Tom?
I mean, I missed Jesse, so sorry guys, but it's like the _ID, and it's the one that's generated by Mongo, and the one without is like if we had generated one ourselves.
Yeah, and I mean that's generally correct. So if we're reading something straight from Mongoose or Mongo, it's gonna have this type of property on it, right? Whereas if we're creating like a wildcard for one of our routes, if I don't put an underscore after that colon, then it's not going to require an underscore. It would be rec.params.id with no underscore, unless I put it in there. Okay. So that's kind of the difference, and we'll address it if it comes up again. But I know that can be a little bit confusing. So that's where we want this to go. So we're in the right place, and then I'll just change this to comment. Everything else was pretty much the same, right? So if I render this, oops, it's not very clear which one is the. You guys want me to style it a little bit? Does it matter to you? Doesn't matter to you?
Get rid of some of the rows on the comment.
Oh, okay, yeah, and then we could say you have less space to post here. All right. Hey, I like that. All right, very nice. Cool. So now all we really need though is the logic to actually push a new comment into a messages array of comments, right? So let's just create that. I'm going to close some of these files out. Okay, so I've got this empty comments controller. So what am I going to need inside here? Mongoose as always, right? And then I need a reference to my comment model. So mongoose.model comment. Oops. All right, and then we're essentially just going to have one method here, right? The only thing that we're going to do is we're going to be able to create a comment. So let's have create, and then that will take in a request and a response. All right. So how are we going to do this? This is where it gets a little bit tricky, and I know a number of you are having some trouble here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to update. We actually need to bring in a message as well, right? So we're going to update a message by ID, and then well, basically the whole update is just going to be pushing in a brand new comment. All right. So let's do that. So let me grab a reference to our message here. Message equals mongoose.model message. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say message.findById and update. Okay, and so the first argument that this takes, and it should tell us in here somewhere, is just going to be the ID itself. All right, so where are we getting the ID from? From our parameters. So we'll say rec.params.id. And here's an example where we're not going to use the underscore ID, because if we look in our routes file, you see, I'll uncomment this for now, but you see we're referring to it as just ID. There's no underscore in front of it. Okay. So we're taking that from there. And then the second argument is going to be, how do we want to update this document? So what I want to say is we're going to push, and then we're going to push into the comments array, right? And what I want to push is just going to be a new comment. And where am I going to get the data to create a new comment from? From the request body, right? Rec.body. So pass in request.body. And then what else do we want to do? So we have some different options here. A third argument that I like to use, because I want to run my validators on an update. Have you guys run into problems where you were trying to update something and validation wasn't happening? Anyone? Has anyone tried to update anything? Somebody has, right?
Yeah.
JJ, you have?
Yeah, but don't call me out. Not everyone.
No, that should be a good thing, right? You're like, I'm moving along. All right, so I'm just going to specify that I want to run validators, because for some reason I think the default is that it does not run validators on updates. And then I may add this other one too. It's a new true argument. Does anyone know what that does? So what that does is that when this thing successfully runs, if it successfully runs, it will give you back a reference to the updated document, not the old outdated one. So it's not really going to be super important for us here, but just so you know that it exists. Like sometimes you might be getting an old document and you're thinking, well, I just updated this. What's going on? That's probably what's happening. Okay. And then after we create this guy, what do we want to do then? So probably we just want to catch some errors, or at least log them out for now. And then finally, we can, again, just res.redirect, right? Okay, / there. Okay. And then inside our routes, we also need to bring in this comments controller and then save this, right? Any issues with what we did here, or is anyone spotting any problems that may crop up?
I know why the validator doesn't work. Because you create the validator inside of that push object. I did it another way. So I create the comment first, and then I save it, and then in my first then I push it into my message.
Okay. So I think in the way that you're, okay. Yeah, and that's a perfectly valid way of doing it. It creates more steps, I guess. But yeah, that
the
works
validator
too.
will.
That makes sense. Okay. So let's try this. Let's give it a shot. Let's see if we can add a message that connect, or a comment.
We have it like displaying comments.
Say that again.
I don't think we put displaying comments in the EGS.
True. Maybe we should do that. All right, good point. Let's come up in here, and then are those supposed to be above the form?
Yes.
They are, right? Okay, yeah. Cool. All right, so let's just drop that in here. Yeah, let's do a for loop up in here. So I don't know why for loops and it's just kind of a pain to do for some reason. Okay, so for let comment of message.comments. Okay. And then down here, let's just close it out. Good deal. So we got the same thing. I'm just going to duplicate these guys and then just bring them down. Whoops. Okay, so this should be comment.name and comment.text. And then we'll change this right here. Alright, cool. So we're almost there. So let's make a comment on actions. Let's say Josh has something to say about that. What do you want to say, Josh?
You shot me in the eye.
That's true.
That's right. I picked the perfect person for this. Nice. All right.
Shot him in the eye.
Oh,
Oh.
what happened?
That's an appropriate response to what upful too.
Can't read property underscore update of undefined. Whoa. What happened here? Has anyone come across this before?
Instead of like when we do like
You mean this part, like when we were just rendering to the template? No, this part was okay.
That's fine. It's the
Yeah.
it's the constructor of the comment. Where's the where's the res and rect coming from? It seems like it's confused with the body.
So let's say we said new comment from rec.body. So that should be coming from the actual. So in routes, we're this callback. So the comments controller.create should have a reference to the request and the response, right?
Okay. And that's because it's app.post. Is that something it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Did we run into a problem with our routes here? No?
Let's see, we got all the way into the comments controller.
What was the issue there? Can't read property update of undefined. Legacy find and modify. I don't know.
Something with find and update.
Find by ID and update. Not that I know of.
That's where that's like.
Have any of you guys successfully used find? I mean, I've used find by ID and updates. It's not usually a problem. Okay. Right. Can't read property update of undefined. So was the situation that we didn't successfully pass a well, let's look back at it. So we passed the rec.params.id. That was okay, right? So if I console log our rec.params.id, is that the right ID? I mean, yeah, it has to be. I just wanted to make sure so that we can eliminate that as a potential problem. So if I go back here, go like this. before it crashed, we logged our ID, so that's right. Push. Yeah, we could do that too. Definitely. Let's refresh that. Whoa. What happened here? Okay, let me try it one more time. Oh, here it is. Okay, so Josh, you shot me in the eye. So that was good, right? Our rec.body is good. So let me just double check Mongoose find by ID and update. That's really weird. Curly brace after which one is? No, I think the find by ID and update just takes in the ID itself. Oops. ID and update. So here, you can see the first parameter is just going to be the ID. The second one is the update object, and the third one is the options object. And then there's a callback function. Do I need to like execute this or something? I don't know. Let's try that one more time. No. All right. Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. It looks like it's deep in the Mongoose library, though. So if we could somehow determine where that's happening on ours, next tick, schema type, document. It's really hard to tell where that's coming from. Update validators. So what if I take run validators out? Would that be a problem? Whoa. That is weird. Okay. So when I didn't run the validator, it successfully posted it. But why would... Okay.
What happens if you just put in one but not the other? It's not going to validate?
Yeah, I would think. So if I actually took off, if I took this out of there, it should still post, right? Let's see, delete element. What if I just go, hey there. Huh. We do want our validators. Well, I'll look into it for you guys, because we should be able to run validations on updates, right? And then I'll let you know. Problem was. But other than that, everything works the way it's supposed to. We can post comments and so forth. Any other questions or things that you guys want me to do with this one? I know it looks really nice. I've been working on my styling.
When you figure it out, can you post like a...
Yeah, that's what I plan to do, is to just figure out what it is so I can let you guys know.
Okay.
Because it doesn't seem like that should be happening. I'll get on it. All right, thanks, guys.